Hey everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the 3D-Fueled podcast, the podcast all about what's going on in the 3D printing industry, what's new at 3D Fuel, the experience and challenges of running a small US manufacturer and e-commerce business, and also to answer your questions about all of the above. So on this week's episode, there's three news stories we're going to cover. Two of them are about Caracol, which is a large format additive manufacturing company expanding in the US and in Europe. And then the third story is going to be about Zellerfeld's Gen 3 printer targeting mass production of 3D printed shoes. Then we'll roll into 3D Fuel happenings, which include our attendance at 3D Printopia this weekend, color data tables for all of our most popular materials, a Hueforge library for the same, and also how you can get started using Hueforge using a 3D Fuel referral link. After that, we'll roll into questions, and I'll answer the questions that you had on last week's podcast. So without ado, or any further ado, let's roll into the news. So Caracol, they are a large format additive manufacturing platform. So they make robotic arms that have a big extruder, like a screw style extruder on it, and they print, as the name implies, large objects. So they have officially opened their Austin, Texas-based headquarters, and this is just for their US facility. But what's interesting is I'm pretty sure that it's in the same building that my former company I used to work with, Essentium. I think it's in the same building they were in. They were exploring some partnerships at some point before they were acquired, and then ultimately went under via Nexa 3D. So it's a 6,000 square foot site. It's going to function as a hub for assembling, testing, and delivering the company's robotic AM platforms to the North American market. It also includes a production and application center to support customer projects in aerospace, automotive, construction, and design. This story comes to us via 3dprintingindustry.com. So why be in Austin, Texas? Well, there's a lot of aerospace companies that are in Texas, and by being located in Austin, it gives them better access to those, not just the companies themselves, but also some of their suppliers, vendors, the whole network. Just a little bit more on this facility. It will have a capacity to assemble up to 100 robotic LFAM systems per year. And that application center, that's going to be great too. That's going to help those customers that are buying these systems and getting up and running with them. So one of the big customers, like customer segments, is aerospace. And this is where this type of platform is used a lot for tooling. So things that are going to hold other things. And when you're talking aerospace and automotive, there are a lot of big things that need to be held, and a desktop 3D printer is not going to cut it, both in terms of the size of the printer in order to print something in one part, or in the speed of the printer. So Caracol's approach is, again, to put this large single screw extruder onto a robotic arm. And some of these robotic arms are even on rails, so you can print things that are larger than 4 meters in area, in floor space. So Caracol, they now have more than 100 systems installed in 30 countries. Their total team is nearing 100 employees. Their value proposition extends beyond hardware. So in their mind, the job's not done when they install a machine. They're going to be working hand in hand with that customer post-sale to make sure that they're having as much success in using that printer as possible. I think this is great news for Caracol. That's exciting for them. I think that large format additive manufacturing is really going to start taking off. Pellet-fed 3D printers, I don't know that they're going to be as popular or as prevalent on the desktop side of things, but I do think that we're going to start seeing more and more of these on the industrial side. And some of that tech will start to trickle down to desktop, or at least maybe not to the scale of a Caracol system, but like large floor standing 3D printers. Think like, think like your Modix 3D printers, where it's a large printer, but now you'll be able to really start pushing more material by using this screw style extruder rather than using a gear where you're pushing filament through. It's also going to lower the material cost because you won't have to convert those pellets first from, pellets into filament in order to use it in your 3D printer. Still tied to Caracol, they've also acquired the assets of another 3D printing company in Europe. So Weber AM, this is to expand their LFAM leadership in Europe. Just really kind of some consolidation here in the market. I think it's really going to strengthen Caracol's position even more as we go forward. And then third story is Zellerfeld. So Zellerfeld, they first started about 5 years ago. Their first printer was called the Mono 1. That was their first generation printer. It enabled 3D printed shoes at scale, printing a single pair. However, it required about 150 hours worth of print time. And these are shoes now that they're not something that I would necessarily wear myself yet. They're certainly not something that I think your New Balance wearing Midwestern lawn mowing dad is going to be wearing out on projects like that. But I think as streetwear, these are moving along from being really, really goofy looking to something that you'd actually want to put on your feet. And they're tying this, I believe, with the ability to scan your feet, get a nice insole, basically get a shoe that's more formed for your foot, so it can be customized to, to kind of what your arch is like, what the size of your foot, what the shape of your foot is like. And they're able to vary the basically the density of the material by how it's being printed. So I think this is pretty cool. But going from that 150 hours later, 150 hours for a pair of shoes, Gen 2 launched 3 years later, and which is what is still in use, shortened their production times and enabled thousands of pairs, including collaborations with brands such as Louis Vuitton and Montclair. Now, we're moving into Gen 3. It builds on those earlier systems. It is 3 times faster than Gen 2. It supports multicolor printing, and it operates autonomously without human intervention. This is where the 3D printing industry is going to start making some huge changes in the next couple of years, is automation. We're seeing it with third-party systems that use, like, for example, Bamboo Lab 3D printers or Formlabs 3D printers, and you basically create a robotic cell where you have multiple printers, and it'll automatically change out from one print to another. So you don't need to have a person going around your print farm anymore that is changing prints over. So taking this, applying it to an industrial size scale, now you have people like Nike that are starting to be interested in this type of tech because it takes the human element out of it. It will enable basically production on demand. So you're not needing to produce container loads and container loads and container loads worth of inventory and then have to store all of that. You're going to be able to produce it in the country where it's going to be sold. You're going to be able to produce it with minimal human intervention. So no matter what the labor costs are, it's going to have less of an impact on that final product. And so Gen 3, they've now opened their platform to designers worldwide. Creators can upload their own designs, which are then manufactured and sold through the company's system. By the end of this year, Zellerfeld is expecting more than 1,000 designs to be available for on-demand purchases, reflecting its expanded accessibility. So you can start seeing how this is really going to start scaling up in a big way. And it's my understanding that they are going to be doing production in the United States too. So it's very, very interesting, very exciting, and they're getting some big brand partnerships. So 3D printing, end-use products, manufacturing at scale, minimal humans. I don't know if the robots are coming for us, but it sure seems like it, or at least it's enabling one human to have their, basically have their capacity expanded by multiples for sure. So rolling into 3D-Fuel happenings, this weekend we're going to be at 3D Printopia out in Bel Air, Maryland. So we will be exhibiting, we'll have a booth. It's basically a 20-foot by 10-foot booth. I'm excited to see all of you out there. I know this is, I think, going to be our 4th or 5th time being at 3D Printopia. This event was formerly known as the East Coast Rep Rap Fest, or ERF for short. I think the rebrand was a really good idea. It definitely gets more of the point across on what the event is all about. And I love seeing friends there. I love seeing people that these are like the only events that we see each other at, and we get to nerd out pretty hardcore about 3D printing. I in particular get to nerd out about manufacturing and the materials that are used for 3D printing. And I think it's just going to be a lot of fun. And now, last year when we exhibited, we had just a small booth. I was still trying to get my feet underneath me in terms of what we were doing with production back in Fargo. Our booth was not all that attractive. And I'm not saying like it looks great now, but it's definitely a huge improvement. And last year we didn't have any product for sale. We will absolutely have filament for sale at this event. Pro PCTG, obviously, many more people know about it now than they did last year. That's really what our focus is on right now, is on Pro PCTG. We'll have a number of our colors there. We're going to have some 3D Printopia exclusive discounts. Please stop by. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to talk about what Pro PCTG could do for your 3D printing projects. And I also want to hear, if you're using our material already, how are you using it? What do you like? What don't you like? This is a great place for us to be gathering feedback, and I want to hear it. Good, bad, ugly, otherwise. Next piece of 3D Fuel news, we now have our color data, so our hex code, as well as CMYK, RGB, and sRGB values for all of the colors of 3 of our materials. So that is Standard PLA+, Tough Pro PLA+, and of course Pro PCTG. As we add more colors, we will be updating those color tables. We have it available in 2 ways. And these color tables also have the transmission distance value, or the TD value, so how much light gets let through the filament. These are also available in these spreadsheets. So you can either look at it and it's a publicly accessible Google Sheet, and that way you can get the full data. Or if you want to download the Hueforge library, if you are a Hueforge user, you can go ahead and do that either on the Hueforge website or on the 3D-Fueled website. On the product pages, we have links to download those library files. So it makes it super easy if you're doing multicolor 3D printing, if you're doing Hueforge stuff in particular. This just it arms you with the best, most accurate color data that's really possible right now. Along with that, if you haven't used Hueforge before, or you've been thinking about trying it out, you've been considering purchasing it, we have a referral link. I certainly appreciate it. We put a lot of time and energy into getting these color libraries built out. We put a lot of time and energy into making our materials easy to use with a wide variety of 3D printers. So every time, if you buy using our affiliate link, we get a small kickback from that. Don't have to, but it certainly is appreciated. Every little bit helps with our R&D budget, so we can be developing profiles for more printers or making better profiles for a wider variety of printers. So that's it on the 3D Fuel news. I hope to see you guys this weekend at 3D Printopia. So let's take a look at the questions and comments we had on last week's video. Right now, still a small enough amount of them that I can go through pretty much every single one. So I've got the video pulled up here. One piece of feedback that I integrated into last week's episode 3 is having the having the timestamps for the different things. I'm going to try and do that for each video moving forward. But the comments themselves, here's one from EvilPig247. Your recycled materials are awesome. I love the recycled PCTG for replacement printer parts and prototyping print heads and fan shrouds. The recycled Tough PLA is also awesome and is great for prototyping. I have color PCTG for final version, and the clears, especially red, were perfect for some crystal props I printed. The red is so shiny. So yeah, that's the transparent ruby red Pro PCTG. It really is one of our favorite colors. We put a lot of energy into making sure that color was going to look great. Love seeing, this is from Specialized with Spooner, love seeing the PCTG coming down. Great to see enough volume to help bring that cost down and a company willing to pass that on. So by the time this video comes up, we will have made some of our pricing adjustments to Pro PCTG. As we're scaling that up, we want to make that more approachable to more people that are doing 3D printing. Let's see. Next comment is from Coffee Gear Lab. I just got a roll of natural and matte black PCTG today. Already started playing with the settings for natural to see if I can make some glass. Glad to hear about the new spool and about the new pricing. Lastly, thanks for the response on the matte white with glass filled. Personally, besides the functional benefits of glass filled / carbon filled, I generally prefer using matte filaments over glossy. Yeah, we hear you. I mean, you can make PCTG matte by printing either faster or using a cooler hot end temperature, but then you lose your structural integrity. I'm hoping to have more news about a glass-filled variation of the Pro PCTG, but still trying to work things out with a compounder for that. Next option here, or next comment from JL Stice Pro. I would suggest for the focus that you turn off autofocus, set up a target where your face will be during recording, and manually lock the focus in. Heard. Downside to that is when I'm recording these, I need to be in a quiet environment, and I don't have any employees that are not doing production work. So when I'm in this quiet environment, they're busy doing their stuff. So to have someone manually lock the focus in is challenging. But I do think this week, I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it is better that the continuous focus problem has been greatly reduced. I've changed some camera settings. One, turns out that turning off continuous autofocus makes the camera so it's not autofocusing every 2 seconds. Who knew? And I've also played around with the aperture, so I've increased the f-stop, so that should help give a better depth of field too. So that's going to let in more light. It should make it so that it just has more of me in focus rather than oh, now it's focusing on my face, or oh, now it's focusing on the microphone. Now it's focusing on the back of my chair. It should help reduce those problems too. Let's see. Oh, this one is, next one is from SCB2. You kind of missed the biggest one on the whole Apple Watch parts being 3D printed. The Ultra 3 case is now 3D printed titanium using laser powder bed fusion, LPBF. Good catch. You're right. I did miss that. I was so focused on just their efforts on making things thinner that I missed that entirely. So yeah, the fact that they've moved to production for that, again, for 3D printing, this is solving a problem. It's a good problem to solve, a worthwhile problem to solve. And I'm glad to see that 3D printing is being applied for practical stuff. And then the last comment from DTIBOR 5903. The autofocus hunting is very annoying. Yep, heard. Not saying it's completely fixed, but it is more fixed than it was. So guys, that's everything that I have for this week. If you haven't already, please like and or subscribe or both to this show. That helps me out. We're trying to really get this to a point where, where it makes sense to do this on a continual basis. We also have put this up onto Spotify. So if you want to just listen to the audio only version, go to Spotify podcast, just search 3D Fuel or 3D printed or 3D Fueled podcast. I'm also working on getting this set up to propagate out to the other podcast networks. I'm not expecting to have a lot of listeners, but hey, I get it. Everyone has their preferred method of consuming this content. So with that, leave your questions down below. Let me know how I can improve, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Bye.